Assalamu alaikum and good morning, everyone. Welcome back again to CILT Malaysia's new webinar series themed on the COVID-19 vaccine logistics. We're very lucky today. We've got a wonderful panel of esteemed speakers who have joined us today. We're very lucky. Gracing us today morning is our international president from the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and he's going to kick off this first session. This is a series of webinars. Today is the first session where we're going to look at scenarios, look at the last mile delivery challenges, and understand from the expert speakers that we have today on the panel on how do we go about addressing, are we prepared, is Malaysia ready, and how ready are we? So to start the session today, to open our session today, I would like to invite our international president, uh, Dato T.S. Abdul Razak Malik. Dato Razak has been a very long serving member of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport. I would say more than 50 years, he would agree, and he would come in and give you a little bit of insight of his career. He's been a veteran, and he still is a veteran in the logistics and transportation sector, very much involved in KTMB. As his role in as the MD, he has pretty much turned around the company, and as his role as a GM in the freight division, he actually launched the first ever containerized land bridge services. He's a champion for women empowerment, and he is so very committed to sustainability, environmental conservation in our logistics operations. So without much ado, allow me to introduce our international president to open our session today. Sir, the floor is yours. All right. Just give us a second. We're trying to see. I believe our international president has been having some problems logging in. And looking at our panel, I believe he may have been disconnected, unfortunately. So anyways, to get the ball rolling, we will reserve our international president to give us a keynote towards the end of the session, to not keep you waiting and to keep the session running. Everybody is excited to hear from these experts. So I will start by introducing the national president for CILT Malaysia, Tuan Haji Ramli, who will come in and give us a piece or two. Sir?
Thank you, Rashma. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To everyone, thank you for joining us. I have to take in the emergency rule in place of role of replacing our international president to do a little bit of opening. But nonetheless, what is very, very important for us today is to listen to our esteemed experts in the field in our effort at preparing ourselves for the transportation, for the last mile logistics in moving the vaccine, right? I will also do a closing remark, but I would, being from East Malaysia, I would tend to zero in on I think a more serious problem than what we are facing here in Semenanjung. When you talk about having it transported within the two states of Sabah and Sarawak, but I think we should not keep things in a long wait. Reshma, I think we can just proceed with the forum proper. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And yes, very, very true. We are so concerned with Peninsula when the rural areas in East Malaysia is an area that we need to be concerned with as well. So today, let's take a look at that discussion. Let's kickstart the whole webinar. This is the first ever webinar where we're actually discussing on the distribution of our COVID-19 vaccines. And from the time we scheduled the webinar till today, there's been a lot of developments in terms of what the government has decided, the vaccines that they're purchasing, the parties that will be doing the distribution. We're very, very lucky we have one of them joining us as our esteemed speaker to give us an insight on how they're going to handle the distribution of these vaccines. But to start the session, all of you know him. He's been on our panel so many times. He is a charter member, so we tend to use him a lot. And he's the president of the Federation of Malaysian Freight Forwarders, as well as recently, he has been elected as the vice chair for the ASEAN Freight Forwarders Association. He gets involved a lot in technical discussions with FIATA as well as WCA, and he's going to give us some insight. So none other than Mr. Elvin Chua. Elvin, can you please join us and can you start the discussion?
Thank you, Rashma, and also thank you, Tuan Haji Ramli, for inviting me for this very important subject, the vaccine logistic preparedness in Malaysia. Right. Without further ado, I'd like to start to have some general knowledge from our recent FIATA World Congress meeting in this Zurich. We were informed there is actually 12 active pharma companies developing the vaccine which are ready to be shipped. But according to WHO, there is 51 companies developing this vaccine, right? Some are at the second phase, some are at the third phase, right? The most noticeable one is actually the Pfizer and the Moderna, which everybody is talking about. And these are the only two companies which need frozen. That is -70 and -40 respectively. And from China, there's 4 companies. And the most popular one is Sinovac. And their temperature range for logistics is 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. Right, and Europe, we have the University of Oxford, AstraZeneca, and also Sanofi. And both of these are also at a temperature of 2 to 8. For Europe, and then of course we have the Russian Sputnik 5, which is also 2 to 8. All right. The first wave of the vaccine to be distributed out in early 2021 will be from EU, US, China, and Russia, which actually the main product unit will be served to their local demand first before they will ever talk about shipping it out. At the present, some of the companies have shipped out a little bit of numbers, right? But this is only just a very small number for the frontliners of each individual country. The second wave will start on 2022-23. This wave will actually will reduce, the difficulty of getting the vaccine as more companies have come out with vaccines and everything. The local production facility will be also coming online to produce locally instead of depending on them in year 2022 and 23. Vaccine will be more stable and the strict shipping requirement will be eased. Okay, so where do Malaysia stand, right, and preparedness on this distribution of this vaccine, right? The government has reported that we have ordered 20% of the population, or 12.8 million doses from Pfizer. Okay, another 10%, which is also signed and confirmed, from the COVAX facility, right? So we have 30%. The other 70% may be coming from China, or maybe more from Pfizer, or from from Europe, the AstraZeneca, this vaccine. The government planned to provide the vaccine for free to all Malaysians. It was reported with a priority. The first phase, our priority is for the frontliners, senior citizens, and the high-risk group. Malaysia can only start using this vaccine after approval obtained from the National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency, which at the moment there is no indication whether it's approved or not yet. but I think so it surely will be approved. Most of the manufacturer vaccine will handle, see, for the logistics side from the manufacturer, they will deliver the shipment directly to our country. So there is no logistic requirement at the first phase, for us to handle this has already been appointed by this manufacturer. We can only handle the last mile from the storage facility to the allocated hospital or clinic. So is our last mile logistic ready, right? To be ready, our logistic company must have facility and asset to move smaller parcel in a 2 to 8 degrees shipment environment in small boxes. And they need to have validated shippers or box, right? And also storage, capability of storage the vaccine to deliver to the hospitals and the clinic. The service provider also need to have proper SOP and loggers and trained delivery staff to prevent excursions of temperature during delivery. Malaysia do have a few companies having this expertise and facilities. The advantage of our country, actually, we have a very good road and air infrastructure, and we can reach any hospital or clinic in West Malaysia within 8 hours from Central, and within 24 hours to Sabah and Sarawak main town, and within 48 hours to all the other smaller towns. This, I have seen a few companies which have done that, and the SOP has been followed. And as you know, Malaysia is also very active in these clinical trials, and we have about 22 hospitals in Malaysia doing the clinical trials, and a few companies have been handling this clinical trial to all these hospitals. So it's not just a new thing for Malaysians. For us, we have done it before, right? The forwarder are ready to handle the last mile, but we are still in the dark in the deliveries schedule plan and the type of vaccine to handle. This will leave it to our next speaker from Niaga to enlighten us on the plan, as there is no single forwarder or logistic company which can handle the total distribution. Example, in Singapore recently, it was announced that they have appointed 12 companies to do the last mile delivery by their government. All right, so over to you. Thank you, Puan Rasma.
Thank you very much, Elvin, for giving us an insight in terms of the delivery times. Like you have mentioned that we have tested, there has been some test runs, probably not necessarily vaccines, but in order to determine the last mile delivery time frame that we're looking at. And of course, superhumans, humans are super, who knows, we may be able to do it even in a shorter period of time when the time comes. So yes, actually, impromptu, just now we had a little bit of a problem with getting our international president to give us the opening keynote. And he has now been able to log in. He's online and he's ready to join us. Please allow me to introduce our international president, Dato T.S. Abdul Razak Malik, to come in and give us his opening speech. Sir?
Thank you, Reshma. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. Thank you, Reshma, moderator of webinar for today. Do we have Tuan Mama Ashraf bin Wan Saleh, Under Secretary, Land Logistics Division, Ministry of Transport Malaysia? Do they have?
Yeah, sir. So joining us on the panel today, a number of senior officials from the Ministry of Transport.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope Puan Anis Mardiana binti Abdullah, Deputy Under Secretary, Land and Logistics Division MOT, Puan Azwana, Principal Assistant Secretary, Land Logistics Division MOT, Encik Abdul Malik Muhammad, Director of Logistics and Distribution, Division Pamaniaga Logistics, Sunan Berhad, Mr. Andili Group CEO Tesco Berhad, and my old friend Elvin Chua, President of Federation of Malaysian Prepardness Station, Tuan Haji Ramli, President CILT Malaysia, Datuk Captain Rahim, Council Member, Faiz, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm indeed delighted for the invitation that gives me the opportunity to present my thoughts and view on the subject matters which really a much spoken and deliberated topic during the pandemic. Firstly, allow me to introduce who we are in 2020. Our institute was founded in 1919 with a mission to improve industry practices and nurture talent. We are 101 years now, and in Malaysia, it has been here for 60 years since. Today, we support over 35,000 members in 36 countries. This year, 14 May, we welcome our 36th branch, CILT Korea. Through our educational suite, our strong community and our commitment to high standards, we help professionals to develop their careers and access better jobs. We are the leading professional body who works for supply chain, logistics, and transport. We are a global family representing professionals at all levels across all sectors. We have a mission to give individuals and organizations access to the tools, the knowledge, and the connection vital to success in the logistics and transport industry. Now, after successfully serving the industry for the last 100 years, we need to be relevant for the next century. Early this year, we had lined up my 5 focus areas during my term as international president. They are as below. Number 1, inclusivity and care every member, CILT member countries to participate actively in supporting the mission and vision of CILT International by creating open platform communication by means of video conferencing, internet TV, and YouTube. It is about sharing and caring. Number 2, green technology and sustainability and green agenda, responsibility and privileged role to play creating a friendly environment for the future of our planet and generation. Number 3, uncharted territories. In the spirit of Stronger Together, we are exploring the uncharted territories, expanding CILT into the Francophone countries, Arabs, Russian, Europe, Japanese, and Latin Americas. Best practices, fourthly, best practices managing crisis in view of the present challenges. CILT believes strict adhering to best practices in managing the crisis and disaster and adapting at the quickest time the new normal and the new reality as a way forward. Special thanks to them who had replied to our COVID-19 impact survey. Lastly, digitization industry 4.0. My focus will touch on the key mission of the Institute to provide accessible and high quality embracing digitalization and IR 4.0 in education globally. Now, these are the essence of the new institute in the new era. As we look at this year and the impact of COVID-19, CILT International has geared our strength to realize the 5 focus areas and had shown positive development. I thank all of you who had done your part in it. I hope next generation will add regions globally and national to step up effort for our own future success. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we started the year with 2020 with full of excitement and anticipation after the 100 years anniversary celebration. Our joy was short-lived, unfortunately. Nobody saw COVID-19 coming as the mother of all disruption. CILT, being an international professional body, was initially taken aback when the Movement Control Order (MCO) was put in place. Many of our planned activities had to be deferred and cancelled. Firstly, I have to exhibit calm leadership with clear message to members, especially the regional and national CILT leadership all over the world. And CILT immediate response to COVID-19. Number 1 is best practice in managing crisis. Number 2, dealing with the new normal. The International Management Council and the Council of Trustees quickly acted to address the COVID-19 challenges by initiating several initiatives as part of CILT response to COVID-19 with the aim of assisting members to sail through the impact of the pandemic. Branches were asked to collate information and share with the International Secretariat on how each country responds to the impact locally. The International Secretariat then packaged the gathered information into COVID-19 bulletin, which was subsequently distributed to all members through the branches. As the new normal comes through, it was noted that supply chain has a critical role to play in overcoming the impact of COVID-19, especially in getting essential service product moving through to the users. To further expedite the sharing of new knowledge and best practices, CILT has organized a number of webinars, including those by the territories and branches. The women's section, as well as the young professional section, next generation. I believe CILT has also organized a number of webinars, including today's webinar, with the intention to create better understanding among the supply chain industry players. While the medical practitioners and scientists were looking for ways to find the right vaccines, the logistic and transport practitioners were also working to enhance service quality and efficiency. We can see, for example, how COVID-19 has spurred the growth of e-commerce, especially on the first and last mile delivery service. With the COVID-19 vaccine is finally found, it's now time for the vaccine to be delivered to the target group, which is in fact the whole world. Once again, the logistics and transport sector will come under the microscope to take up the challenge. CILT, for its part, will continue to provide the right knowledge and skill for its members to take up the challenge for vaccine logistics with flying colors. We will continue to share best practices from and with our global members. An article written by Ms. Kanmani Batumalai from Code Blue on 14/12 mentioned that the logistical problem starts right when Pfizer BioNTech's ultra cold COVID-19 vaccine reached airplane cargo in KLIA. Do we have enough facilities which can store vaccines under -70 degrees? I agree with what Alvin says. Are we ready? It was also identified the major problem in COVID-19 vaccine transportation is always in the last mile sector. An unbroken cold chain has to be maintained throughout various modes of transportation until carrying the vaccine to respective vaccination centers. By the way, 6 hours ago, Singapore, the first in Asia to receive Pfizer's BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. However, I'm just happy to note that CILTM has once again taken the leadership role to organize this webinar for the benefit of key stakeholders and industry players, as well as Malaysians as a whole. Congratulations, and with that, I'm happy to declare this webinar, and I hope everyone attending the webinar will have many points to take home with you at the end of this webinar. Lastly, wishing you all Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Stay safe, stay healthy, stronger together. Wabillahi taufiq, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for that insight. So you've heard from our international president. The purpose CILT Malaysia does these webinars are generally to share information, to understand best practices, and generally, yes, to get experts in to share this knowledge with everybody else. So there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Any of you, thank you very much, attendees, for joining us. So we had a little bit of a slip up in the flow. For instance, our international president was supposed to do the opening. However, he had to come in right after Elvin due to some bandwidth issues. Please do put in your questions in the Q&A button. We will be taking questions after 2 other speakers join us. So joining us now for the next session is from none other but Pharmaniaga. They're one of the selected distributors that are going to do the vaccine distribution in our country. And we're lucky to have the Director of Logistics and Distribution joining us today, Encik Abdul Malik, who has more than 27 years experience in logistics and distribution with a lot of knowledge pertaining to managing pharma supply chains. So without much ado, let me now pass the floor to Encik Abdul Malik. So I will be sharing your slides for you. Please do come in and I'll get your slides running up in a minute.
Thank you, Puan Reshma and CILT for inviting me to be in this webinar. Yang berbahagia, Dato' Abdul Razak, CILT International President, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum and very good morning. I'm Abdul Malik, Director of Logistics and Distribution from Pharmaniaga. I'm delighted to speak to you this morning. So I'll keep it brief, facts-driven and specific to the point. And let me start by short introduction of our company. Slide number 2.
Have I got the right slide on for you, sir?
No, should be previous page. This is number.
There you go.
Yeah, another one. Yes, correct. All right. Pharmanega Berhad is a public listed company and a subsidiary company of Bausted Holding Berhad. We are the largest integrated pharmaceutical group in Malaysia with a track record in providing quality products and excellent services to customers from both government and private sector. We record Ringgit Malaysia 2.8 billion revenue in financial year 2019. Our value chain in pharmaceutical industry starts from the formulation of generic, manufacturing of generic drugs, pharmaceutical grade warehouse and distribution, sales and marketing of our own products, as well as equipping healthcare facilities and reach consumer level through our community pharmacy. Can I have next slide? Yes, great. Thank you, Panchma. Just to highlight, the company that relevant to this webinar topic today is Pharmanega Logistics, which core business focused on last mile distribution. So we have 26 years experience in supply chain management for healthcare products, and in particular for vaccine distribution covering both -20 degrees Celsius and 2 to 8 degrees Celsius temperature requirements. For over last 10 years, we have supplied more than 13 types of vaccines to all Ministry of Health facilities nationwide, supplied about 26 million vials or 46 million doses of vaccines to all government hospitals and clinics across the country, ranging from developed urban areas to the rural and remote areas. I think there are lots of development of vaccines. Next slide, Panchma. Yep. There are a lot of development on the vaccines, and once vaccine distribution is decided, a significant hurdle is the actual transport and delivery of vaccines, most of which require cold storage and freezer support. And from the published information, more than 200 potential COVID-19 vaccines are being developed currently worldwide, with some like Pfizer and Moderna's vaccine that have passed their phase 3 trials and have entered the market in some of the countries. I think we know just now, my president also mentioned, Singapore have reached this morning, about 6 hours ago. And that vaccines require temperature for -70 C, and for Moderna, it requires -20 degrees Celsius. But majority of the vaccine manufacturers have announced standard temperature requirements of 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. For Malaysia, a vaccine is likely to be ready for distribution by early 2021 as announced by the government. Next slide. Many vaccines being tried require different storage protocol. One of the most important being storage at temperature ranging 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, -20 and -70. Moving the last mile can be difficult in places, particularly where infrastructure is lacking. Vaccines have to be transported through a cold chain in which they are maintained at the desired low temperature range throughout the entire process, all the way from the manufacturer to the point of use. Any breach in temperature control can degrade a vaccine, making it lose its full potency. Vaccines must be handled and transported in line with regulatory requirements at controlled temperature and without delay to ensure the quality of the product. So back to the question, are we ready to distribute? We have set up task force preparing to, number one, secure stable supply chains for vaccines. We establish operational readiness activities for a vaccine rollout, identifying logistics risks, verifying partner capabilities and infrastructure, adequate trained workforce, communications and data connectivity and security arrangement. With that, we believe we are able to get this massive job done. Pharmaniaga core competency lies in its pharmaceutical-grade logistics services. Priorities for preparing facilities for this distribution include availability of temperature control facilities and equipment, adequate trained workforce to handle time and temperature sensitive vaccines, compliance to good distribution practice to meet the temperature requirements for the upcoming COVID-19 vaccines. Next slide. The integral part of our distribution infrastructure is actually the 5 warehouses which are strategically located in Malaysia. We have one of it in the north, 2 main warehouses in Klang Valley, and one in Kuching and one in Kota Kinabalu. All these warehouses have been licensed to handle cold chain products by the National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency, and the facilities are continuously enhanced. The storage are fitted with real-time temperature monitoring system and backup power to ensure vaccines are safe for use. Next slide. Back to the question of how do we deliver to the remote area? With the delivery challenge to remote locations, especially in Sabah and Sarawak, we are able to reach hospitals and clinics in urban, suburban, and in the remote rural area, including that are only reachable by river. So there are about 75 clinics that we have to reach. There's only way by river. The delivery vehicles are equipped with the IoT devices, which allow us to monitor the vehicle movement, arrival of time, and also the temperature. So majority of the vaccines manufacturers have announced standard temperature requirements of 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. This brings about the need for the high volume of vaccines to be managed in compliance of good distribution practice requirements and the specifications set by the vaccine manufacturers. To have this capability, technology towards IR 4.0 is implemented in Pharmaniaga, such as IoT temperature sensors, real-time alerts, data analytics, and also cloud computing to manage our transport management. The other one, next slide, will be the human capital. The availability of the sizable skilled staff are well trained to handle time and temperature sensitive vaccines. Next slide. Next slide. So vaccines transportation is not like any other drug, as temperature excursions will impact its efficacy. In order to manage this, especially with the delivery challenge to remote locations, adherence to standard and compliance is important. Yeah, so our storage and distribution medium and process complies to good distribution practice by NPRA, National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency. Next slide. As majority of vaccines are at the final stage of entering the market, issues of distributions and logistics needs to be addressed. Yeah, go to the next slide. Having well-established distribution infrastructure and careful planning plays a key role in the distribution of time and temperature vaccines. There are few potential challenges identified in this distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, such as flight, given the urgency of the pandemic, the volume, longer distance will need to be covered by air. The flights carrying doses and related supplies should get priority treatment. Custom clearance, few factors to look into, such as work effectively with the health and customs authorities to ensure timely regulatory approval, adequate security measures, appropriate handling, and also custom clearance. Once the vaccines has successfully undergone custom clearance, the transporters will then play a huge role in delivering them to the appointed main distribution center. A tightly coordinated shuttle delivery plan must take place in order for the vaccines to be safely stored in the cold rooms or freezers without any further delays once they arrive at the DC. Among other challenges potentially faced in the distribution center are the lot release, which is the process to establish that the vaccine is safe for use. Storage space, due to the massive volume estimated. Packaging material is another challenge where it consists of the boxes, dry ice, which depends very much on the production of the suppliers. Next will be at the vaccination center. Storage for keeping the vials is something to look into. Nurses giving shots would require ancillary items such as alcohol wipes, syringes, needles, surgical tape, masks, and gloves. Therefore, adequate supply is critical. Keeping track of those who got vaccinated and when the people are due for second dose from the same manufacturer is another challenge. So last but not least is security. Safety and security is always paramount for vaccine shipment. Security concern must also be addressed and will require digital tracking of doses from the time they leave the factory until reaching the ultimate point of administration. Arrangements must be in place to ensure that shipments remain secure for tampering and theft. With that, next slide. So Pharmanaga is proud to be part of this monumental public health effort to ensure safe, reliable, and effective COVID-19 vaccines reach the public. We will continue to do our part to help patients, customers, and public addressing this historic challenge. So thank you for your time and stay safe.
Thank you very much, Inje Abdul Malik. That was a very insightful presentation that you gave us here. To think that you did all of this for us, thank you very, very much. There are a lot of questions already popping up in the Q&A box. Please continue. We will address these questions after our third speaker. So our third speaker joins us from Tasco Berhad. Mr. Andy Lee is the group CEO for Tasco. He started his career with Tasco from 2005, joining, and in 2010, he became the corporate executive director for Tasco. And in from 2014 to 2017, he was appointed as the operations director who was in charge of supply chain solutions for the company. And he was appointed also in from September 2017 to April 2020. He was the MD for Tasco Yusin Gold Coal Sendirian Berhad, which is a subsidiary of Tasco. And from April this year, I believe, Mr. Andy Lee was appointed as the Group CEO for Tasco Berhad. Tasco is one of our cold chain leading companies in Malaysia. So without much ado, allow me to now pass the mic to Mr. Andy Lee. Sir, I will share your slides.
Thank you, Rasma. Good morning to all the panel members and also the attendees. Again, my name is Andy. I am the CEO of Tasco Berhad. I become the MD CEO this year in April during the MCO time. So actually, there's not many members in my office when I become the CEO. I was away for a while. Just to share before I go to the slides, there's a lot of mention about the vaccine arriving to Singapore itself. We have just checked that the flight going in from is SQ 7979. It's a 747 tonnage arriving to Singapore this morning. If you look at the whole channel itself, the flight was flying off from Dallas, USA to Brazil. Then from Brazil, they actually fly over to Sharjah, UAE. Then from Sharjah, they're arriving to Singapore. There was some waiting time in between, but the total flying time in actual fact is about 28 to 29 hours. So that is where the challenge of the last mile as well, reaching to the airport itself, whereby the delay of any of these transit terminal could actually delay the planning in the last mile delivery as well. So this poses some challenges to that as well. So without further ado, let me quickly introduce my company. My holding company is Yusin Logistics. It's an international logistics company. They have 400 companies throughout the world and covering about 40 over countries. Tasco is a public listed company in Malaysia. Then as you can see that GoCo itself is actually our subsidiary of our cold chain. Tasco at this moment, GoCo itself is the biggest cold chain company in Malaysia. Respond next, please. I think next please, just press. Yeah, there are a lot of update of this COVID overview, but I would like to point out on the point number 6, number 7, and number 8 itself. There are potential 150 potential vaccine developed across the world. Developed will be the temperature requirement about -70 to about -20 and 2 to 8. And there's also about 150 flights and about 150 million cooling boxes could be needed for transport billion of vaccine 19. I think this number, item number 6, 7, 8 actually pose a lot of challenges to the supply chain of this vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine. Next, please. Yeah, this is a list of all the vaccine that was that is in the list. Next, please. Next, yeah. Yeah. So for the purpose of this dialogue, we actually divide the temperature into 3 temperature. First, we call it the ultra cold, which is -70°. And then another one is frozen, which is about -20. Another one is called chill, which is temperature 2 degree to 8 degree. So the following slides, we will use the ultra cold, frozen, and chill as a guideline for the supply chain challenges. Next, please. So on this chart itself, as you can see that the supply chain flow, vaccine from vaccine manufacturing company to origin airport. Just take, for example, Brazil. In actual fact, Pfizer have a factory in nearby Brazil. The distance from Brazil to the Brazil airport, from Pfizer factory to Brazil airport is about 30 kilometers. Then from Brazil, they are flying off to different terminal and arriving to Singapore airport. In this case, we are KIA airport. Then we will do the vaccine distributor, deliver to the vaccine distributor, and then finally to the hospital. At this moment, we Tasco actually handle for AstraZeneca vaccine, not the COVID, but the other vaccine, all the way from UK until KLA, until the vaccine distributor as well. So for the purpose of the discussion, I think we have made assumption on the shipping term, they call it the Incoterm itself, under the called DAP, delivery at place. So if you look at delivery at place, what are the responsibility by the seller? The vaccine manufacturing is responsible to deliver the goods, including transportation costs to the named destination at the buyer vaccine distributor. I believe the government have actually announced that the logistic cost will be bearable by Pfizer in case they buy it from Pfizer. And then, but if you look at the DAP term, the custom clearance appointed is by the buyer itself, the vaccine distributor. Because normally the importer will have the enough document and permit in order to import. And then from then the destination storage and the last mile delivery will be by the buyer as well. They call it the vaccine distributor. So in this case, I think Pharmaniaga will be the vaccine distributors from the destination storage until the last mile by Pharmaniaga. So there are a few area of looking at it. If you look at the ultra cold itself, at this moment, like Pfizer, their way of maintaining the temperature are using pellet, dry ice, and loaded into a normal ULD. They call it unit load devices. These are no temperature control to load into the ULD. And then, of course, once it arrives to the KIA, they will need to use the reefer truck, or they can use a normal truck as well to deliver to the vaccine distributor. But in case of those under the frozen or the chill temperature, these are quite a common vaccine that to be distributed before the vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine. They have the, they call it Envirotana. Envirotana at this moment can go the lowest about -20° from the origin. So these Envirotana are delivered to the factory site or vaccine manufacturing site to be loaded. Then they have a logger inside the Envirotana and deliver to the airport, original airport, and deliver all the way to KLA. And normally this kind of Envirotana were able to go up to about 24 to 48 hours temperature control and rechargeable, and we use the normal truck and deliver over to the vaccine distributors. So this is a quick introduction of the different temperature of vaccine delivered in this market. Next, please, Resma. So these are some of the critical handling area at the origin, at the KIA, at the distributors, at the hospital, and patient. Just want to share that this is important that we have the collaboration from the origin to the origin airport, arriving to the transit terminal, from the transit terminal arriving to the destination KLA, that including the government authorities. So it is definitely a private sector and public sector to work together to able to deliver this particular product, vaccine product, to the right time, at the right place, at the right temperature. So that is where a lot of the collaboration required to be done. So, all right. So I will not go through line by line. Okay. Next. What we can do, looking at the supply chain flow itself, we have our USEN group, our TASCO group, our coaching group, and also our partner GDEX as a capability. At this moment, TASCO is able to tap onto the USEN network, take up from the origin site, loading, ground inspection until the destination of KRA. In KRA, TASCO is the only one with a clean room basis to handle some of this coaching product. And we also have doing the dry ice refilling. Then at the last mile, and then also at the temperature storage area, in total we have about 50,000 pallet position in the cold chain, reaches the lowest about negative 30 degree. But at this moment we are mainly storing for ice cream at this moment and able to deliver to the last mile as well. Yeah, next please, Resma. So because of this collaboration that we have, globally we have set up global key account director James. Then we have the global business development organizing and a healthcare quality organizer as well. And then in each region we have the US, the Europe, Japan, Southeast Asia, then East Asia people to be here to assist us to connect us with all the countries in order to bring the product at the right time, at the right place, at the right temperature as well. Next. That ends my presentation. Thank you very much. Respa, pass back to you.
Thank you very much, Andy, for looking at something that I think many of us don't look at, the Incoterms. So yes, you know, understanding that the choice term that was picked up, DAP, would generally involve still quite a bit of work from the importer, from us, from our perspective, as well as the last mile. So now we come to the Q&A forum. It's time now where we pick up, there are quite a number of questions already. And for those of you who probably had some people who weren't able to come in, the room is full. We have about 113 people in the room currently. So we will be actually sharing this on CILT Malaysia's YouTube channel. So you can always go back to this webinar recording to have access on what was shared. So we start with the questions first. So the first question we have here is from Miss Hui Pia Ping Sia. And she wants to know, for instance, whether in Penang, of course, we understand from your presentation, Cik Abdul Malik, about the various distribution centers that Pharmaniaga already has in place. But she has, her question is, do we have the capabilities for these distribution centers to handle the negative 70 degrees temperature requirements, specifically for the Pfizer vaccines? Sir?
Yes, thank you, Puan Reshma, for the question. Currently, Pharmaniaga readily available infrastructure is we are having at minus 20 degrees Celsius and also 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Yeah, but this is minus 70. We are in the preparing of to handle this. But again, there are a lot of information in terms of who will be the distributor for this is still unknown. Yeah. So this is something that I think storing for the ultra cold change is something that will be a challenge. I mean, to any logistics company or even as at the vaccination center, because still lacking at in the many parts of the country. Yeah, I think as we progress, people are getting ready for that. As we get more information, so you know, preparation for that is something that we are working on.
Okay, so generally we, at this point, we do know we're getting the Pfizer vaccines. I believe Elvin has given us some percentages, right, Elvin? You shared some percentages. We do know it's coming in. We do know the Incoterms rules as a DAP, but we still need to understand the ultimate last mile challenge and what would be required. Would there be a need for us to do some repackaging for these vaccines? Elvin, can you help us out with this?
Okay, from the experience or the discussion we have under our group, SFS Pharma Group of Asia, in Singapore, we already have 5 units of minus 78 degrees refrigerators, right? But we found out that the numbers of wheels, the vaccine, do not need so many minus 70 refrigerators. From our calculation for Singapore, example, 6 million, 13 million this dose, because the wheel come in 20 ml, you only need 2 ml, so there's 10 shot per wheel. So in the end, we calculated we only need 2 unit of the minus 70 refrigerator. If need be, Malaysia, for my company, we will bring in the minus 70 this refrigerator from Singapore, 1 or 2 unit, placing it in the central and also at north, right? So to store for them. But normally, the storage actually is unit minus 70, but when you distribute back to all the hospital in Malaysia, most of the hospital in Malaysia can only have up to maximum minus 20, right? And they have the chillers 2 to 8, right? So the 2 to 8, there's no issue because, example, like our box, our this VIP box, we can do up to 2 to 8, up to 96 hours. So like what Encik Abdul Malik said, box is a challenge, right? So in Singapore, we have bring in 5,000 box from Singapore. We build our own VIPs and validate it, so that we can do distribution. So these boxes can be recycled, all right? After distribution, we can bring it back again. But the only thing is that, all the hospital must be ready to keep the vaccine at 2 to 8. And then this vaccine only can last for, if we are talking about Pfizer, they can only last for 5 days. All right, 5 days after in 2 to 8 environment, then they will start deteriorating. So they had to administer it, within the 5 days. So it won't be going like big lot. It will be going by phases, Maybe today they want 50 or they want 100 wheels, then it will be sent. But the main thing is the storage area. Where do they want to put the storage area? All right,
Okay.
that's the main concern that we also have, right, on this
storage,
this vaccine. But for all the other vaccine, 2 to 8, there's no issue. Pharma Naga have all the facility, what they call that? Zuli Pharma have all the facility to keep, to store, and then to take it. It won't be repacked. The wheel will be repacked to smaller quantity and go on smaller box to the various area. But I still feel like what the American is doing, for the minus 70, the Pfizer is only for the urban area.
Exactly.
Right?
I think that would be, we are unsure in terms of, okay, we do know who are the receivers in terms of, what the government has told us. However, we don't know the receivers are purely going to be in Semenanjung, in the urban areas, in Semenanjung and East Malaysia. So that, of course, we'll wait and see how the government's going to respond to that. But coming back to storage, now I'd like to pose this question to Mr. Andy. Mr. Andy, you have shown us a couple of slides. You've given us the clean room facilities that Tasco has, and you've shown us a picture of refilling. I today morning actually watched a video on exactly that. To maintain the temperatures, because dry ice starts vaporizing. Apparently a kilo lasts up to 4 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, it doesn't remain at that temperature within that 4 hours. It starts deteriorating and vaporizing. So I watched a video about supplies of this dry ice. There are certain countries, like specifically in the US, a video report that I watched earlier this morning was in getting hold of this dry ice. And apparently you can't use slabs. You need to use these pellet dry ice. Can you give us a little bit of an insight on that?
I think quickly touching on the ultra cold vaccine itself. I think first of all, I think in the whole model of ultra cold vaccine, if it's based on our information coming from global, it will based on a pooling model. A pooling model is that it's only when a hospital demand it, they will actually ship it in. I think unlikely that you will see a lot of storage or even almost zero storage at the distributor level or even at the KIA level. So the pooling model is upon arriving to the KIA, you will need to deliver to the hospital within 5 days. Because based on the spec of the product itself, the dry ice will able to last for 5 days. So in order to do that, if you look at the flight time over coming from Europe and US itself, you'll probably take about 3 to 4 days itself. So there is a very high chances that we need to do a refilling of dry ice at the KIA in order to prolong the product for another 5 days on the local domestically. So regarding the dry ice supply, we have actually spoken to a few of the dry ice supplier. Looking at the volume coming in, I think the government is looking at about 12.5 million doses, but I think eventually it will jump up to about 18 point something million doses. Looking at the volume coming in and the number of divided over number of shipments, I don't think dry ice will be a constraint at this level. We've spoken to them in terms of delivering to them, delivering the amount to us is not an issue to us. So I think there are will be challenges on the retails, and in order to open the dry ice box and to refill the dry ice, you do not require to have under the cold chain facility, but it's more important to conduct this at the clean room basis itself.
And it should be cold. Am I right to say that? Because, you know, with the temperatures that we live under, taking out this dry ice and opening a package would then also affect the temperature range of the vaccines. Wouldn't you say that?
In actual fact, if you look at the spec given by the global site, this exercise can be done in a normal temperature, but it will be better if you can do it in the colder temperature. But I think more importantly, beside the temperature, because the dry air facility will be able to chill the product, more importantly, is able to have the clean room basis because you're opening the box itself. So we consider ourselves as a secondary touching on the product itself. We are not touching the primary product in a way. We're not touching the bottle itself. So at the secondary level, it's important for us to have a clean room basis to refill with the dry ice itself. So I think that is a few things. But of course, if you look at the spec of the product, if you are able to conduct this and store at a lower temperature, the 5 days extension of the dry ice can be extended. So based on a time motion study from a dry ice of from US coming to Malaysia, but they likely would be transit in either in Taiwan or Korea. But why we choose Taiwan and Korea? Because now it's a winter time. So the temperature over there is cooler as well. Normally, based on timeline, the dry ice will have left 20% of the balance when it touched down in Malaysia itself. That's where our job is to actually refill the dry ice into the box to actually chill, to freeze it and then deliver for the next 5 days. But to deliver the next 5 days in West Malaysia is not a challenge. But in order to deliver that from the KIA to the East Malaysia, that will impose certain. That's where we could be some collaboration together with the Ministry of Defense, or even with Asia, with Malaysian Airlines, charter a flight to deliver for it as well. Yeah, just to share one more item, the number of dry ice could be allowed in a plane. There's a limitation. So if you charter a flight of 747, the maximum number of dry ice is 1,200 kg allowed to be in the flight. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you for that. So it's understandable. It seems to be that this is going to be a massive initiative between the public and private sector. So there are a lot of questions actually, Encik Abdul Malik. I mean, many questions for Pharma Niaga in this question box, where we understand that Pharma Niaga is unaware yet whether the last mile delivery for the Pfizer vaccines would be undertaken by Pharma Niaga. But let's assume that would be the case. It's some scenario planning discussions that we're having here. So let's assume that, yes, Pharma Niaga is going to do the last mile for the Pfizer vaccines as well. So there's a couple of questions here where they're asking, will Pharma Niaga be working with external parties to fulfill? It's going to be a massive delivery. So they want to understand, for instance, how would you work in this area? Would you also be engaging other service providers to work together in this initiative?
All right. Good questions. It's interesting.
If I can also prolong that question, Cik Malik, a little bit.
Sure, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. I would like also to sort of elongate this question to both Cik Malik and Andy. After you have delivered to the hospitals, and of course, the hospital will also deliver to the district hospitals in particular. So how far after the last mile do both TASCO and Pharma Niaga assist, especially the district hospital, in maintaining those vaccines to the requirement that it is slated for? Thank you.
Super question. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I answered the first one with regards to the Pfizer's vaccines. Yes, based on information currently we have, as virus requires an ultra cold temperature, everyone knows, -70°C. And also they're coming with the pre-filled syringes, yeah, which in the syringe by itself, and they will deliver in the thermal shippers, which already fill in dry ice to maintain the ultra cold temperatures. So, well, yes, I would agree with Mr. Alvin just now mentioned with regards to when it comes to this, ultra cold chain delivery, the urban area would be the suitable place because of the readiness of at the hospital sites or clinics to have this infrastructure. Yeah. So on this aspect, we are looking at just-in-time based delivery may help to ensure smooth and orderly vaccine and also stock replenishment. Yeah. So if you ask about the readiness, we are in talking or in conversation with the suppliers as well, especially those who can provide the storage for ultra cold temperature, and we call it active systems, where it has to be powered by the electricity to have to reach that -70°C. And the other method, once we have that, the other part is to have a cooler box. Yeah, cooler box just now mentioned by Mr. Andy, where it requires to have to reach that level of -70, dry ice will be the best medium, as a preconditioned coolant, where we need to have that put it into the box before we deliver into the hospitals or even into the clinics at the remote sites. Yeah, but again, having said this, all this has to be qualified. Yeah, has to be qualified and also validated by the authority before we can, get it rolled out. On the second questions for the Datuk Haji Captain just now, with regards to how do we deliver to the remote area, that's our infrastructure. Just now mentioned, we have 5 warehouses strategically located throughout Malaysia. Yeah. For example, if you talk about remote clinics, majority are in East Malaysia, especially in Sarawak. Yeah. Just now we mentioned about 75 clinics. It can only be accessed by river. There is no land transportation to reach that clinics. Yeah. So what we did, we will have, from our central DC here in Klang Valley, I mean, there are 2 DC in Shah Alam. So we will do sort of like stock transfer, inter-warehouse transfer. So we use flight to deliver into our DC in Kuching or even in Sabah. And from there, we will put it as in transit in our cold room. Yeah. And then do the repacking, and from that DC in Kuching and also in Sabah, we will deliver to the remote area. So we have a system where a passive system that we can guarantee in our cooler box, we can guarantee within 48 hours, 2 to 8 degrees Celsius is guaranteed. And all of these cooler box, we will put in the temperature monitoring device to make sure that the vaccines are in that temperature control. And should there be any deviation or excursions, it will be indicated by that device. Yeah? These are the methods that we are using to make sure that everything where we deliver temperature control products reach the customer safely. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's very reassuring, because the efficacy of the vaccines generally depend very much on maintaining the temperature. And it's quite obvious to see, because I always say logistics is logistics. You have to do whatever is most logical in terms of delivery. So yes, it seems as though these ultra cold vaccines would be delivered to more urban areas, whereas we're possibly in the remote areas, we'll be looking at those that are in the frozen or the cold systems, the 2 to 8 degrees. This question now is posed to Mr. Elvin Chua. If you can, being the president of the Freight Forwarders Association, Do you see us coming up with, is there any news of a working committee where we have the public and the private sector working in action group on this? Have you heard anything? Can you provide some information or maybe recommend that?
Yeah, as you are aware, just now when we shared a video about Singapore, Singapore have formed a committee of 14 experts from logistics companies and also from the government and also the OGS to discuss and how to distribute. So as I say again just now, they even have nominated 12 companies to do the distribution. Our challenges here actually, again, like what Dr. Malik said, is actually East Malaysia. If quote me if I'm wrong, Dr. Malik, there is no dry ice availability in this Sarawak. All right, so I've been sending dry ice shipment there, So, but we cannot do the top up in there. So we have to use the face panel or the VIPs, to maintain at -20, which our box can do that, But when we reach KLIA, we will change it and put it in dry ice. But now this is reverse again, back to the other side. So I think the Pfizer and the Moderna is not suitable for Sabah and Sarawak. We can only use the 2 to 8 one, maybe the AstraZeneca or others, right? So, the challenges for East Malaysia is not so great now. We can use the passenger flight to go over there, and we can clear within 1 hour from the airport and deliver to this hospital. This has been done very frequently, right? Frequently, even from Singapore direct to Sabah and Sarawak, it has been done. So there's no challenges for us to deliver there, except you are going into the inland, like what Abdul Malik said, that's the challenges. For West Malaysia, there's no issue on the urban area. All right.
There's actually a question. So as I informed all of us today that observing the session today are some senior officials from the Ministry of Transport, and One Azwana from the Land and Logistics Division has asked us 2 questions. She says, could you please elaborate further? Do we have sufficient supply of boxes for ultra-cold vaccines for distribution? And number 2, distribution to hospitals that are done by Pharmaniaga or hospital personnel themselves, especially in rural area, who will be doing it? But I believe, Inchi Abdul Malik, you already answered question number 2. And number 3, how do we ensure temperature is not tampered with, and what are the processes involved? So I believe all 3 of you have actually answered the temperature control requirements, that how do we ensure that the cold chain is not broken? That's essentially what we are discussing. But maybe let's talk about the supply of these boxes. Do we have enough in
yes,
our country?
For Malaysia, I think so. For the ultra cold box, the -70 box, there's no issue. We have a manufacturer in Malaysia, but they are using foam box which can last 96 hours. All right. This manufacturer actually is from UK, but they have a facility in Ipoh during this box. So there's no issue on the boxes, right? This is all dry ice boxes, validated internationally and can be used anytime, right? That's the
so
the
that
box
we
that
do
we
have enough supply, that means, right?
For the 2 to 8, there will be a challenge, because we need many 2 to 8 boxes, right? And 2 to 8 boxes, you use vacuum insulated panel, which you need to condition. You must know how to condition the boxes before you can use it.
Freeze
and then
it, you mean?
you have to freeze it, chill it. There's many ways of doing this. There's a protocol to do that. Okay. And then this again is validated, boxes, and the other thing is these 2 to 8 boxes, is a bit expensive. So it can be recycled, but it's a bit expensive. And the numbers is not many in Malaysia at the moment. All right. So maybe 1,000 box we have that, but it's not enough. So, it takes time. But this box is quite good, Some is from Germany, some is from America, the Creator box, the VacuTech. It can last 96 hours at any one time. So we don't need to open the box, to when we deliver. All right. Okay. So it's very safe. And then we use data logger. That's another issue. Do we have enough data loggers? It's not cheap, data loggers, right? We have a few branded data logger, which is also must be validated, before we can use.
these
Right.
data loggers are to collect
To log,
information throughout the supply chain on the
yeah,
temperature of these
yes, every
at
5
all
minutes.
times, every
So
5
recently,
minutes.
our company also have developed a data logger which is Bluetooth, so we can see from outside, right?
Right.
Together with GPS, you know. Then this one will work very well for this moving of this
Right.
vaccine, right? Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you,
Resma,
Alvin.
yeah, sorry.
Yes,
Resma, yeah.
Andy. Yes,
Yeah,
Andy.
just to touch base on the boxes itself, just want to share with you, if you look at the Pfizer submission to the CDC in US itself, in actual fact, each boxes itself come with a logger, a
Yep.
GPS logger inside there, where actually they can track the distance, the point to
Yep.
point. Another thing is that actually the boxes that provided by Pfizer can also be used for storage at the hospital. So, but you just need to replenish dry ice for every 5 days. That is quite
Okay.
open it up. So I think that they have actually thought of that in a very quite detail in this area. Yeah.
All right. So there is actually another question, and maybe somebody misconstrued something. The question is about standards that you need to comply with in bringing in the vaccines. Quite obviously, there are standards, as you have indicated, Encik Abdul Malik, right? Can you give us some information, because they want to know what are the standards? This is from Ms. Harlina Susanna Jaffa. She's saying that, are there any standards that you need to comply in bringing these vaccines, or is it based on logic? No, no, no. The logic was based on distribution of type of vaccines. But yeah, Encik Abdul
Right.
Malik, what are the
Okay. Thank
standards?
you.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Okay. This handling vaccines, I mean, is a biological products, yeah. And these products, first of all, if you want to distribute or selling this product, you must register with the National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency. So they do have the standards or the guidelines. We call it good distribution practice, yeah. And to handle the cold chain, there are a few things that they have to follow. For example, like, you know, because the cold chain itself is a process. It's a process of you transport the product at the temperature condition, temperature controlled condition, which is coming from the manufacturer right to the point of use. So along this line, along this distribution link, you got to make sure that it complies with the temperature requirements, remain with that condition so that the product can be used at the fullest, to the fullest of, with the quality and also efficacy. So therefore, there is a standard, being drafted, or guidelines being drafted by the NPRA. So you got to follow this to make sure that things are in order. Therefore, there's no temperature excursions, things like that. So among the things, for example, you know, there are a few things that they have to follow. Like, for example, if you want to store the product, you must have infrastructure for that, meaning to say that, you know, how do you make sure that the product is being kept and maintained within that condition. So they have, for example, we call it active system, you know, when you distribute in the cooler box, they call it passive system. What medium did you use to make sure that, you know, the temperature is well maintained as what required? So all of these are available, I mean, in the NPRA, and have to follow it strictly, and they will come and audit to make sure that you comply with these requirements. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So just to a note to the audience, a lot of you are asking questions that only the government can answer. For instance, will the vaccines be refilled? Whether we're going to have a vaccine manufacturing site in Malaysia, whether which vaccines are going to go out to which number of public, all that information we can't disclose that. This is under the prerogative of the government, and they will let us know. Today's session is generally a discussion forum, and it is the first discussion forum. We're looking at scenarios, we're looking at what we have, and we're looking at what we may need when these vaccines, before these vaccines actually come to our shore. All right, so we're actually coming towards the end of our session. So I'm so sorry. Many of you have asked questions that only the government can answer those questions. However, all the other questions that we were able to answer, I have put it out to our panel speakers. So before I invite our national president to give us our closing, I would first like to go through a round with the speakers. After the speakers have given us a minute or two before we close, I would like to invite our discussant as well, Dato Captain Haji Abdul Rahim Aziz. He also posed a question in just to summarize a little bit. And finally, Tuan Haji Ramli, our president of CILT Malaysia, will close the session. So we will start with you, Elvin, probably a 1 minute takeaway for the audience. And then from you to Encik Abdul Malik, and then to Mr. Andy.
Or do I come in now, Reshma?
Sir, why don't we give 1 minute to each of the speakers just to give us a piece? Yeah. Elvin, your mic needs to be on. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Resma, and also CILT for giving me the opportunity to share the logistics perspective of Malaysia readiness on COVID-19. Today's session actually have opened up good information for the publics and also what's our capability. All right. So with that, I wish all well and hope that we can really move this in a safe and good way to all our citizens. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hopefully we have a next session with KKM. Yeah. Elvin.
Yeah, sure.
Encik Abdul Malik, you sir.
Okay, thank you, Puan Reshma. Okay, I just want to add on the rollout of these vaccines because it is a massive exercise. Yeah, I think the collaboration or coordination between the public and the private is very important. Yeah, and this has to be a targeted approach. For example, that means we do in the staggered manner. Give a priority to the frontliners, for example, the elderly groups, things like that, so that the implementation or rollout will be in stages, and we will not having a chaos in terms of getting the supplies like the cooler box, like dry ice, things like that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, knowing that we are all waiting for the vaccine, and then suddenly you get a break in chain, and there goes all that money, right? There is no. It's not like Pfizer is going to give us a little extra for the ones that we have spoiled, right? That have lost this efficacy. Mr. Andy Lee.
Sure. I'm just filling some terms from CNN News. It's not just about vaccine, but it's about vaccination. I think to bring the vaccine to the place, to have the people to be vaccinated, I think that is the key important process. In order to achieve that, they were talking about 3C. First of all, whether you have the capability to do so. Next thing is whether you have the capacity to do so, and whether are you doing collaboration among all the public sector and private sector. I think moving forward, I think we need to again relook at the collaboration, the capacity, and also the capability function in order to bring the vaccine to the right place at the right time at the right temperature. Yep.
Thank you very much, Andy. And Dato Captain, it's your.
Okay, thank you, Reshma, and thank you to all the speakers, Alvin, Malik, and Andy. It has given us a good insight of the vaccine situation. And I think the whole nation, Ryan, is looking forward very eagerly to the usage of the vaccine until it becomes like just buying paracetamol from the shelf. And that will bring the nation back to our normal state before the pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. So now we're coming towards the end, and there's a really loud message we're hearing here. There must be public and private sector working together. And let's now look towards that. We have the Ministry of Transport observing this session. We believe the information will be, we believe the information will be disseminated among the government agencies that are involved. And we hope in the coming sessions, we'll have a follow-up with this with KKM. So before I close, I'd like to invite our national president, Tuan Haji Ramli, to come in and give us 1 or 2 notes before we end the session for today.
Thank you very much, Reshma. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good morning to everyone here today. Our appreciation from the bottom of our hearts to our 3 panelists, Cik Abdul Malik, Andy, and Alvin, for wonderfully sharing their thoughts on the subject. Yeah? And to you, fellow participants, thank you for being with CILT Malaysia yet again for another great session. With the excellent expositions by the panel, I would like to quote Dr. Kate O'Brien, a departmental director with the World Health Organization, who said that um, she would like to compare the monumental task ahead to climbing the world's tallest mountain, in that developing the vaccine and getting them licensed is like building base camp at the bottom of Everest. And that actually getting to the peak is the delivery part. But I'm happy to note that with the excellent expositions by our panel, I think we we are no more scaling Everest. I think Mount Kinabalu is good enough for us to scale, right? We have learned a lot from the panel, and thank you very much. So what actually Dr. Kate was saying is that she suggested that developing the COVID-19 in record time was easy, but coming to transporting and distributing the vaccine is going to be a struggle about how to do this quickly and seamlessly. So as a logistical operation, this really is unprecedented in terms of its scale, magnitude, and of its urgency, just because it is a totally new phenomena for everyone. So what makes it worse is that it's not just a one-time or one-shot operation. This is something that is going to be ongoing for several months in order to get that vaccine to those who needs it now. So once it leaves the deep freezers, as you were informed, it has limited time before it needs to be in somebody's arms. So that means transporting the vaccine has to be seamlessly done. Otherwise, we are losing a very valuable product. A big sigh of relief from Sabahan and Sarawakian alike after Cik Abdul Malik elaborated on how the vaccine is to be transported to the East Malaysian state, and Andy has also clarified things. And of course, Alvin Chua last mile delivery remark just now was wonderful in things like dry ice. Really, I thought only Sabah lacks it, but I didn't know that Sarawak does not have it at all. That is something really big to be considered. And again, talking about Sabah and Sarawak, what we have heard just now are plans, you see, just theories. But we are more concerned that what will happen on the ground. And to make you fully aware, situation in Sabah and Sarawak could be a little different from Semenanjung, especially when you talk about the climate change with the flood, with the rain, landslides. That will affect inland transportation. I mean, we can plan about it. We can just say how do we do things around it, but try to simulate it and put it ourselves in a situation that what if it really happened, right? So, but when I think Andy was talking about the chilled temperature point container, and I think this is the bit that is most applicable to Sabah and Sarawak, right? Because since, as Inti Abdul Malik say, your warehouse in Kota Kinabalu and Kuching, well and fine. But you know very well that the in-road transportation in Sabah and Sarawak can take as long as 12 hours. And again, as I said just now, what will happen when there is flood, when there is landslides, it can't pass through? Well, maybe that's where the helicopters may come in. See, these are all the things that need to be configured to make things very near perfect, if we can, right? So another point is talking about the public and the private sector collaboration. Perhaps I would take it that it is going to be to me it is a corporate social responsibility for us, right, to dispel any fears, because only very few of us has some knowledge on the matter. But what about the general public? So I have not seen in many news here, in media here, that it already start to broadcast. So we would like to see communication to the public in the form of what KKM is doing for COVID-19. Perhaps an everyday 4 o'clock or to 5 o'clock slots of that nature. I think we should start thinking about that seriously. So on the one hand, learning from the experiences of other countries is a good thing, right? But again, saying that we have to take all these experiences into account, taking into account the geography of our country, yeah? And with differing situations, giving rise to peculiar challenges, right? And I would like to quote from my favorite RTM newscaster, the late Farid Isbeth, fikir fikirkanlah. With that, ladies and gentlemen, fellow participants, we at the CILT thank you for being with us today. Hope you had a fruitful session, and do join us for more sharing of knowledge session in our coming webinars. Have a good day, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, fellow speakers, International President. I know you are up very late at night with all your international meetings. Thank you so much for joining us. And please stay tuned. There's definitely more coming up. This is not the one-off. It's going to be a continuation of the series. And this is what CILT does. We share. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day. Merry Christmas and have a wonderful 2021. Vaccines are coming out. Don't worry about the mutations. Take care. Yes, sir. Yes.
Can we take one photo? Puan Azwana, can you turn on your camera? You take one
And
photo for
Puan
everybody.
Anis, kalau Puan Anis boleh.
Yeah, Alvin, give me your best smile. Dato' Razak, give me your best smile. Okay.
Okay, Puan Anis.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great time, everyone. And thank you again from all of us. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rasma. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.